I know you still have questions about Butler, and we all still have questions about Butler. Like, why do we know so little about the shooter?
Yeah, no, guys, it's definitely a question I have, and it's definitely a question that's bothered me and frankly pisses me off. I mean, we're getting a little deep, but here's what I'll tell you. I love Kash Patel, and I love Dan Bongino. They're phenomenal human beings. And unlike the last group of characters, these two would not hide anything. They just would not. They would not hide anything about that situation. They would not hide anything about the Charlie Kirk situation. I saw all the conspiracy theories on the Charlie Kirk situation. They're just too good of people, right? And they were all friends with Charlie and everything else. But no, I don't like it at all. I talk about that a lot in the book. I don't like the lack of answers. I don't like the fact that we've seen one picture of this kid. He looks like a prepubescent 14-year-old. No, it's bothered me, every day since.
Do you think there's a chance that he was co-opted by somebody and coaxed into it?
Honestly, I think it would have come out if he would have been, to tell you the truth. Listen, who the hell knows, right? I have serious questions when, we haven't published the phones. They broke into the phones of every January 6th protester, but they can't get into this kid's phone. Every grandmother that walked the halls of the Capitol and took a selfie, they got into their phones and they didn't get to this guy's phones. I can only tell you as a son, when you see your father get shot in the face, when you see an ear come off, especially as somebody that's as protective as I am, and also as a guy who's pretty much been a competitive shooter my entire life. 130-yard shot is a chip shot, guys. It's like Tiger Woods missing a 4-inch putt. With a competent shooter, with a modern rifle, with modern-day optics, my 7-year-old son will make that shot every single day. So you can only imagine how infuriating it is for somebody like me. And I find it interesting that we've seen one picture of this kid, and again, he looks like he's a baby. It's like it's this innocent little picture, and he wasn't. This guy was an absolute animal. So I think we're all happy the guy's no longer around, and they handled the situation brilliantly. But I can tell you how pissed off I am, and I think a lot of this country is still pissed off about that situation.
Yeah, I mean, the whole world would have changed in that moment if he hadn't turned his head. How has Charlie's death changed things for you? I'm sure your security footprint got tighter, but how has it changed for you too, just as a man?
So I'm going to say something that's very kind of un-PC to say, right? In terms of security, guys, listen. If somebody wants to get you, they're probably going to get to you. I hate to say that, right? And Secret Service probably freaks out if I say something like that, but it's just the reality. And what they wanted by taking out Charlie was they wanted us all to hide. They wanted us to go inside. They wanted us off of that stage. I mean, Megyn, you remember this? I saw some baby videos of me up there and you and I on Fox. But I mean, I spent years of my life going through every single swing state in the country. I'd grab a bullhorn. I'd hop on top of a John Deere tractor, literally on the right, and you'd have 500 people or 1,000 people on a field, right? And that's the only way we were able to win against Hillary and against that machine, was having a loud voice and just getting out there and wearing through shoes and speaking to every person we possibly could and doing it authentically and from the heart. You don't think by putting a bullet in Charlie they wanted to put us all underground? Of course they did. They didn't want my voice on the stage. They sure as hell don't want her voice on the stage. You think they want my father's voice on the stage? They didn't want Charlie's voice on the stage. They did everything they could to kill us. And literally and figuratively, that's what Under Siege is about, right? I mean, I never got a speeding ticket, and I became the most subpoenaed person in the history of this country. 112 subpoenas from Pocahontas and everybody else, right? And, the impeachment 1, impeachment 2, the Russia hoax, where they're making up dirty dossiers about, excuse me, I apologize because this is crude, but prostitution and golden and all this stuff that was not true. Hillary was paying for it. And then the calls from the FBI, Eric, I hear you have secret servers in the basement of Trump Tower that are communicating with the Kremlin. It was lies. And then throwing you off of Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and taking you off the ballots in states, and the 91 indictments and the mugshots and the raids of Mar-a-Lago, and I mean everything else that they did to silence our voice, keeping us in courtroom after courtroom every single day. Guys, they wanted us arrested. They wanted us in jail cells, even having done nothing wrong. We've gotten every single one of those convictions overturned. But they didn't. They wanted my father in prison. They wanted him voiceless. They wanted him bankrupt. They wanted our family totally dysfunctional. And when none of that worked, you better damn believe they wanted him dead, no different than they wanted Charlie Kirk dead. And I'm sure if they had the chance, they probably wouldn't want me on the stage either. This was their tactic because they lost the argument. They lost the narrative. And so guess what they do? They label us the whole time, Megyn, right? you're sexist. Well, that's kind of funny considering Kellyanne Conway, our first campaign manager, was a female. And then Susie Wiles, our second campaign manager, was a female. The first 2 female campaign managers ever to win presidential elections, but yet my father is sexist. And then, you must be, xenophobic, and you must be, anti-Semitic. Well, it's kind of funny, anti-Semitic. Like, my sister's converted to Orthodox Judaism, and my father's done more for the people of Israel than probably anybody, but you must be anti-Semitic. And,
now it's full-blown Nazi.
What's that?
Now it's full-blown Nazi.
Yeah, Nazi, and then you're a Nazi. You're a fascist. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure if you define fascism, that wouldn't be Charlie Kirk, who's literally sitting there engaging in First Amendment kind of dialogue with another person. I would say that the guy dressed in black with the sniper rifle, shooting over the heads of college kids, like that guy's probably the fascist. But it's really interesting that's how you label us, and it's like the greatest projection of all time. They're everything that we say we are. The problem is America no longer believes they're bullshit anymore, and that's why we won in such spectacular fashion.
Well, we hope that's true. Tuesday's results are a little disturbing because they won with the crazy guy in New York, and they won with the more moderate people in Virginia and sort of New Jersey. I don't think she's so moderate, but people are worried about the future. So back on the original question, 2028, is there going to be a Trump on the ballot?
I don't think it would be me, guys. Listen, at a certain point in your life, I can tell you politics is brutal. Politics is, you see a beautiful side of it in certain moments. When my father got Middle East peace, you realize that everything that you'd been through, that whole siege was worth it. At the same time, you see the worst. You see the worst of people. These guys are, politicians I generally just dislike, most of them. These are people, especially on the one side, that they've never opened a business. They've never had to make payroll. They've never had to sign the front of a check. You talk to them about any complicated topic, and they generally have zero understanding of it, and yet they're the people responsible for the legislation of it. And I find that highly ironic, right? But it's a nasty game. At the same time, it can be beautiful if you can actually really kind of effectuate change. But the problem is I'd see politicians go in there all the time into Washington. Eric, I'm going to go to Washington, and I'm going to make such a difference. And I go, no, you're not. You're going to get there, and you're going to get run over in about 2.5 seconds, and that's generally what happens. And isn't it really amazing that it took this kind of brash billionaire from New York to go into Washington, D.C., and kind of give the middle finger to the entire establishment? And guys, he sat there, and he didn't care. He didn't care what it cost. And believe me, it cost us a lot of zeros. And he didn't give a damn, and he didn't care about the lawfare, and he didn't care about the impeachments. What he wanted to do is he wanted to go in there, and he flicked the hornet's nest over and over and over. And every single time he flicked the hornet's nest, they got worse and worse and worse and came after him harder and harder and harder. Most people wouldn't have had the financial ability to do that, and most people wouldn't have had the voice and the movement to be able to do that. It was the ultimate David and Goliath story. He had the two things that you needed. He had that incredible voice and that incredible way to message, and he had the monetary ability to fight these guys back. We spent $400 million as a company defending ourselves from nonsense shams, the Russia hoax, which was totally fabricated, these dirty dossiers, $400 million. Anybody else would have gone in there and they would have just turned them into mush in one day.
Well, never mind when the criminal indictment started, which would have collapsed most people.
It's the one time of year that Birch Gold Group gives away free gold with every qualifying purchase. That's right, for Black Friday, when you convert an existing IRA or 401k in whole or in part into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, Birch Gold will send free gold to your home for every $20,000 purchased. Gold started this year around $2,600 an ounce. By October, it was over $4,000 an ounce. Why? Global uncertainty. 2025 has been defined by trade wars. Central banks are pulling from the US dollar as the global reserve currency, and military tension continues to build. Gold thrives in times of uncertainty, and if you are looking to diversify your savings, Birch Gold can help you. Plus, now through November 30th, get free gold with a qualifying purchase. Just text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and for our free info kit on gold. But your opportunity for free gold with purchase will end on November 30th. So don't wait. Text MK to the number 989898 for full details. Message and data rates may apply. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.